Okay, so welcome to the J-Fashion Roundtable. I almost said Roundtable Pizza, you guys.
Are you hungry?
Oh, that cheese bread. No, I just ate cheese bread.
But you really wanted a pizza.
The Roundtable, where we are all people who participate in different kinds of J-fashion, and we're going to talk about the styles we wear, how we got into like certain J-fashions, what are our shared experiences in being in these different substyles, and what are our different experiences, and then we'll just, I don't know, have like an open discussion. That's kind of it. So let's do introductions. My name is Jessica, or Op6We. You can follow me at Op6We on Instagram. I am going to be mostly moderating this panel because the only J-fashion I wear is Lolita. So I'll just be here to kind of like direct conversation and that kind of stuff. I've been wearing Lolita for how many years? Like 8 years now. Oh, wow. And which is like not that long compared to like some people. It's like I feel like I'm still a baby. And I go by she, her pronouns. Madeline, since you're next to me, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Madeline. I use she, her pronouns. I wear both Mori Kei and Lolita, but I've been wearing Mori Kei for a lot longer. I've been wearing Mori Kei for about 7 or 8 years now. And I've been wearing Lolita since 2018. I actually discovered, it's kind of backwards. I discovered Lolita after discovering Mori Kei, which most people usually find Lolita first because it tends to be more popular. But yeah. That's what I have to say right now.
Yeah. Thank you. Ray, do you want to go?
Okay. I'm Ray, she, her. I'm on Instagram, and everything else is Jinbees. It has 3 E's on Instagram. Don't ask. I've been in Lolita for 15 years. And Gyaru for 8 years.
Okay, I was sensing a gaudiness like in your makeup, and I saw your nails, and I was just like,
yeah,
Himekaji, or
I normally wear like Hime and stuff, but I want to do like a Valentine's thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So had to be on theme. But yeah, I've been doing Gyaru for about 8 years. I only wear Hime. Don't ask me about other substyles because I'm bad at them.
You can go watch the video for the Gyaru 101 if you really want to learn about all the different styles.
Right.
Which you can find on the Rose Foray YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the next person to go is Maiko.
Hi, yes, my name is Maiko, or you can call me Mai. I go by May Misty on Instagram. I've been in Lolita for roughly 10 years. Other subcultures, I kind of do everything. I grew up kind of being in an alternative style, and I didn't really have names for it, really. I think it's kind of like roughly like Aomoji Kei. And like Vivian in Westwood Kei kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, nice to meet you all.
Okay.
Good to be here.
We have Kamila in her 3rd panel of the event, working very hard. Would you like to introduce yourself again?
Yeah, sure. I even have like the comments going. I always like stay in like the private chat for too long, and I'm like, oh wait, no one's saying anything. Yeah, so I'm Kamila, creator of the apparel and illustration brand Hard Decora. I've been wearing I don't have like all these like years and things like set in stone like I guess the others do, but I guess I've been wearing J-fashion since like 2014, like just like pursuing actually wearing it. Kamala puts in hours. Yes, Frill Squid was in one of the other panels too.
Yeah.
I remember you. yeah, so I've been like, I kind of started being like, oh, I'm gonna do pastel goth, and I needed to collect more pastel items, and then all of a sudden I was doing like Fairy Kei because I needed to collect the pastel items, and then because I didn't really know what the difference was, like, because I was just seeing these pictures on Tumblr and not really being like, okay, so I'm seeing Fairy Kei mixed in with like decora stuff, and I'm like, oh, are they like the same thing? I didn't really know, so I'm doing like some strange mix of Fairy Kei and decora, and also mixing in just like my influences from uh 90s like American pop stars and stuff like that, like Aaliyah and things. So I'm like, yeah, I gotta wear the crop top with the baggy pants and like and like the backwards cap or something, like, I don't know, and then add all these accessories. And so I was kind of like mixing a lot of things together, and then kind of like found out like, oh, okay, these are what the separations are, and more like how to traditionally pursue these styles. But I just love wearing different things. I've recently gotten to blackout garusa, so I wear garu as well. But you know, I'm also like mixing a lot of styles, and I also very much try to mix in decora or like just colorful name check Aaliyah in the J fashion. So yeah, so I kind of like try to mix in different color schemes and stuff with garu sub styles, but I still very much feel like I'm a baby in garu for sure, because I'm like, okay, how do I do this right? That's hard. How do I do this wrong? That's easy. I can do it wrong and make it look good.
Yeah, and you did do a panel during, when was it, Grammary? Did you do your panel about mixing substyles?
Mixing styles, yeah.
So you can check that one out on the Area Kei YouTube channel.
Yeah, so that's pretty much my deal.
And we have Puvi here with us.
Hello, my name's Puvi Bell. I run an alt fashion brand as well that mixes and everything. I've been in Lolita for about 10 years. Similarly to Jess, I very much feel like the baby, because like all of the people I know have been in the fashion for like 20 years. So, but yeah, it's like, oh, I guess 10 years is a long time, huh? And I also am into menhera. I got into that about 3 to 4 years ago. And I really, really enjoyed that style, since there's a lot of personal meaning in it, and it's like a comfy, casual, accessible style. And I personally mostly wear like kind of like a mix of like this punk and menhera mix. But also I've dabbled in visual kei, like all of us, and OG. I used to wear a little bit of mori, but I kind of stopped because it just there's too many wardrobes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And mori requires to have so much clothing already, so it's like,
It does.
Yeah.
Visual kei too, and some of the same layering senses, but
yeah, a lot of these fashions have to do with like layering.
And it's been an interesting journey for me, because I definitely I started out as Hot Topic trash. And then I moved from Hot Topic trash to like trying to be a really good like classic Lolita-ish, gothic and classic Lolita. And then I like kind of have circled back onto being Hot Topic trash. So
Yeah, I think anyone who grew up as like a mall goth kind of has that experience. We're like, we're not that anymore. We're not trash. And then we're like, you know what?
I feel like mall goth is even too kind of a descriptor for what I was wearing at the time. It just was a mess, but it was like my mess.
For your crystal necklaces.
Oh yes, those. It's funny that became the defining item for me, because I like it and it's me, but it's also like not me at the same time.
Totally get that.
Yeah. So let's kind of start talking about like our talking points. So the first thing I want to kind of cover is like, what did everyone, in terms of like discovering, which we kind of talked about in our intros, in terms of discovering like J fashion, what did you come across first? Like, how did you discover it? And like, how did you decide you wanted to do it? if anyone wants to just go ahead.
I guess I have something in my mind already. I was reading the manga Super Gals and had no idea what J fashion was, but I knew I wanted to dress like these girls because I went to a school that had a uniform. And I was like, yeah, look what they're doing with their uniforms. Like, I wish we had to wear like skirts or whatever.
Baggy socks.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh man, I wish I could manipulate it in that way. But then like one of my other new friendships, she was older, a junior. She was just like, yeah, I'm going to wear like the button-up shirt that we have to wear like really big and baggy and then wear like my own shirt under it, or like I'm like, yeah, that's a great way to do that. And I felt like I was kind of biting off of their thing, well, their spirit, I guess. And then later on, same uniform school life. And later I found out about like, oh, there's these different J fashions, and there's like, you know, Gothic Lolita Bible, seeing that randomly at a store, thinking that it was going to be filled with comics, and then seeing like people in it. And I'm just like, there was an illustration on the front.
Bless Barnes and Nobles and Borders for like having GLBs and shit. Because that's, I feel like a lot of people got into it from just seeing it on the bookshelf.
Yeah. So it was kind of from there going on Tumblr, seeing things. And then after high school, well, actually after college, I was able to actually pursue wearing the clothes. Did not have very much money or style know-how. I was very intimidated by makeup, and also like makeup is a part of the patriarchy. And I was all like that about it. But watching videos from Haruka, actually like her using her finger to like put on the makeup, and it not being about sex appeal and being more about like just like the art of it and the colors of it. I was just like, yes, I could do it if it's about that. So yeah, that's kind of like where I started.
Thank you.
It's funny hearing you say, oh yeah, I didn't know how to do makeup and dress myself, because every time I see you, even like the first time you wore Lolita, you were like, ah yes, I'm perfect. And I'm like, what is It's like, excuse you, you just bought this dress 2 days ago. I watched you buy it and you come in with this perfect coordinate. What is this?
Fake it till you get it.
So
Yeah, for sure.
So Michael, I know you've talked a little bit about like kind of growing up, kind of already knowing about like different like substyles, or like kind of having that be a part of your culture. So at what point did you decide like, you know, oh, this is like the J fashion, like this is what J fashion is, versus like, you know, this is just something that like I generally know about?
So I like grew up in Japan like a little bit up until like very young, and then so when I was there, like back in the day, I feel like it's way less so now. It was more mainstream to have like very quirky fashion. Like there was a lot of like brands for younger girls, even like very small girls that had like really bright colors, or like even like goth stuff was available for kids. So I was kind of like, because my mom was really quirky as well, she like dressed me up really like kind of a bit out of the norm. And I think like even on TV or mainstream media, there was like celebrities like, or like in magazines that they didn't dress like, I don't know, normal or whatever. So I just thought like, you know, that's how I dress. And then I didn't really think that it was like a subculture. I think it's just kind of like just what I do, what I dress up as. And then I think I didn't even know about communities until like I just dressed up on my own to an event once, because I had been living in Australia for a while at this time, and then I met someone who was like dressed in Lolita from like top to toe, bright pink, and I was like, oh, like you guys dress like that here.
Yeah.
And then the community like join, and I was like, wow, that's a thing. So like, yeah, I think I was very like, I thought it was just like my own, not my own thing or anything, but it was just something that
like it was pretty normal for you.
yeah, people just did if they wanted to, and it wasn't kind of like an actual community or like a concept or like a culture. And after being in, like, getting in there, like I thought it was just like much more than just like dressing. It's like more like social, and you meet friends, and it's like a whole community. And I really like that aspect of it as well.
Me too. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So Madeline, you said that you discovered Mori before you discovered Lolita.
I discovered Mori. Well, okay, so if I like rewind like way back to 2006, I was in high school at that time, and I was doing a paper on Gothic fashion. And I came across Gothic Lolita. But of course, this was in 2006, and I was like 14. So I couldn't afford the clothes. I loved them. I couldn't afford the clothes. All of the websites were in Japanese. And this was before Google Translate would translate all the websites for you. So I was like, oh, this is cool, but I can never wear it. So I had this like vague idea of J fashion in the back of my brain while I was growing up. And then after high school, I was on Tumblr, as people find a lot of J fashions on Tumblr. And I saw she went by Shortcut to the Stars.
Yes. She's now my Magi. Is that her?
Yeah. So she did some really great Mori coordinates, and then there was another person named Catbus, and they did some really great Mori coordinates, and I was like, ooh, this is great. I fell in love with it, and I still didn't really even understand that there was this like umbrella of J fashion. I was just like, oh, this is also a fashion that is from Japan. But I didn't know that it was like I could relate to these people who also wore Lolita or people who wore Area Kei. So that I was wearing Area Kei for a long time, and I was like doing some more like research on like where to buy clothes, and I came across the video by Deerstalker Pictures where they did the Enchanted Fawn video for Hainuli. And I was like, what is this? Because it didn't look anything like Lolita as I remembered it back in 2006. So I didn't even connect the two, but I was like, oh my gosh, it has deer on it, and it's so magical, and it has like a very Mori vibe, but it's like poofy and like fancy. So that's how I re-found Lolita and started wearing it again.
Yeah, which I feel like that's a lot of people's journeys. It's like they start out like being like, oh, Lolita is a thing. Like they discover it, and then they're like, I can't wear it. And then it's not until much later that you feel like, oh, like this is actually a fashion I could get into once you like have money and can afford clothes, like that kind of thing.
I'll say very kind people lent me their wardrobe for probably the first 3 or 4 years, really, about that much. I slowly started building it up. So around starting 2011, but up until then, a friend just lent me stuff to every meet.
Which is like a lot of people, like also like, you know, you get like people who like are your Lolita moms or whatever who like get you into the fashion, which we love. Yeah.
And I think that that's why I ended up really loving Lolita fashion, is because there really is no like in-person community for Area Kei. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's like meetups, and I can like meet other people who love the same fashion that I do. So that was just another reason why I was like, oh, Lolita's fun.
Yeah. So Ray, you got into Lolita first.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. You got into you got into Lolita first, and then you went and did another substyle like a couple years afterwards. So how did that happen?
So Lolita, I've been in it for so long, I don't remember the actual origin of how I got into it. I'm pretty sure it had to do with Shoujo Beat. If anyone remembers those magazines. Then like I used to watch a lot more anime and stuff when I was younger, and I had come across Peach Girl, and Peach Girl was actually my introduction to like Gyaru and stuff. So yeah, it was kind of all associated with anime in the long run, but
but like in terms of like when you decided to like, did you actively decide like I'm a Lolita, now I'm gonna do Gyaru? Like, how did that happen?
Like, I feel like when I do different fashions, it kind of comes in phases. Like, I'll be like, oh, I want to wear Lolita, and then like I'll go for like so many months or whatever, and then I'm like, oh yeah, gyaru is a thing. And so I'll go into that. Like even recently, I haven't worn gyaru in like a year because of the whole pandemic and stuff. And then I was like, you know what I should do? I should wear gyaru again.
Yeah, I've been noticing you've been posting a lot of gyaru like cords.
Yeah, like if you go back in my Instagram and stuff, you can see like the pattern. Like a couple years ago, I have like a bunch of gyaru stuff, and then like it's just Lolita, and then like every couple years, I'll be like, yeah, gyaru.
Yeah. Which similarly, Puvi, you started out doing Lolita as well.
Yep, I started out with Lolita. I had my first punk rave brand while Lolita, quote unquote. I still have it. Never get rid of it. And I started out that way, then graduated up to the bodyline, a bodyline plaid thing with no blouse, of course. Though, in fairness, I started in the Atlanta Com, and between like April and September, no blouses are completely kosher because it's hot and humid, and we're not ruining our blouses today. But yes, I did. I started out. The first convention I ever got to go to was in 2009. Was MomoCon, that was held on my college campus at Georgia Tech at the time. Kind of funny to think it was just in 3 of the college buildings, but some members of the Atlanta Lolita community did a panel on J fashions, and they showed Visual Kei and Lolita, and so I got interested in that way. And then I met someone on campus. I saw them wearing Lolita, and I was like, "Oh, you're wearing Lolita. We're friends now." And they're like, "Oh, you recognize the thing I'm wearing? All right." And she was really sweet and lent me wardrobe for the first few years, and then also Hey Nuli's, the stained glass dress. I saw that, and that was my first dream dress, and I started kind of getting more into goth from there. And then with menhera, a few years ago, I mentioned like, oh, I kind of like decora, but I'm not really into pastels. And somebody said, oh, well, you should look into menhera. It's like decora, but dark, which is the wrongest description of menhera.
Yeah, that is not it at all. There's a word for darkora.
Darkora. Yep. I have that design by Monique, by the way.
Right. There's a word for that.
Right. Yeah, just lots of misinformation, which is still rampant on menhera, of course. But
which, if you are interested in getting into menhera, check out Puvi's menhera panels, which I think you have on the J Fashion On Demand.
Yes, they're there. There are other places too. I think they're there. I will shove them at you. Yeah, and then. Actually, I got on the CGL Menhera chat board and posted some nonsense, and they were all very nice to me and were like, no, but here's some links.
A rare instance where they're not terrible.
Well, so the menhera people are the menhera community itself is very chill, and it's a lot of people who have chronic health issues, mental health issues. And so when they go out to seek being anonymous, it's because of like, it makes them more comfortable, and they're typically very nice people. So there's like a reason why you find menhera on chat boards, and actually the origins of menhera, even in Japan, roots back to 2chan.
Oh yeah,
because it's when you have those issues and you have to talk about those deep issues, sometimes it's just easier to do it anonymously. But anyways, yeah, they corrected me, and then when I found out that menhera is about expressing, like about destigmatizing mental health and chronic health issues and expressing yourself in that manner, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I wish I had this earlier in my life. This would have really helped me out. And so I've been like very focused on that in my artwork, especially lately.
Yeah, so we've all kind of like touched upon like first getting into different J fashions and how accessible it was. Since you guys are a pretty diverse crew of like different kinds of J fashions, I want to open up like the discussion of how easy do you think it is to get into certain J fashions?
Oh, well, menhera is the easiest one in the world. All you need is a vent art on the top and you're done. Like, get yourself, like, anything. Get a $25 Redbubble shirt with a vent art on it and wear jeans, and you did it. Easy.
Yeah,
right,
it's more
like,
about the theme, right?
Yeah.
It's also like kind of to do with accessibility.
Yes. It's about accessibility. So it actually, like, if you go, this is a problem I had coming out of Lolita into it, is if you actually accessorize it too much, or you try too hard and add too much to it, you actually make it not menhera again. So it's about keeping it comfy and casual, but very, very easy to get into, like probably the easiest fashion you can get into. You probably have a shirt that qualifies as a menhera shirt being vent art already in your closet.
Yeah, that's why I'm afraid to do menhera, because I'm like, I automatically add 20,000 things to things. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know how to try not do too much overkill. Now I'm like, what, the other thing, yami kawaii or something.
Yeah, that's, if you want to go overboard but still want some medical fun, yeah, that's the one to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet you'd make some really cute yami kawaii cords.
Yeah, I gotta try that sometime. I guess if I'm already talking now I have the hot potato. What was the question again?
Like how accessible do you think like the certain J fashions that you wear are to get to?
Oh, okay. I really think like decora is really accessible, or something like Pop K or something, which doesn't really have the accessories but still maybe is colorful. But yeah, I think decora is because you can like thrift things. It's all about like the colors and the patterns and layering. And you can get like stickers cheaply if you go to the dollar store and get like cheap stickers or cheap hairpins and stuff like that. It's just about layering the things on. I think where people can get tripped up is combining those colors and patterns. That can seem overwhelming, of like, what colors go with what other colors? Like, how are you putting this together and it not look like a mess? But it's like, you got to be afraid to not be a mess. Like, I think the mess makes it better or something. So you got to go through the mess, and then you'll like come out of it being like, I'm used to being a mess now. Now that there's a method to the madness.
A mess.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's kind of like what you gotta do. There's not so many like brands that have to be adhered to in order to be decora. I guess you could aspire to get 6% Doki Doki or Galaxy or something like that. But you don't have to. But yeah, I think like, yeah, decora, Fairy Kei is fairly easy to me. Though I guess like the pastel part of it can be like trying to hunt down the right color of items can be harder outside of like going to certain brands or something. So I don't know.
Yeah, and here's a comment talking about mori, and Madeline, you said that you got into mori because it was a little bit easier to get into versus getting into lolita, right?
Yeah, so mori was really fun because it was one of those things where you see it online and you're like, I have clothes in my closet right now, I could go and like try this out, and then you're able to experiment a little bit more before you put too much money into it and really feel if it's something that works for you. So that's kind of like how I did it. And then I slowly started going to thrift stores and picking up more pieces. So that also makes it very accessible. There's like Wax Poetic Shop said, there's not, at least in currently and not in as much in the Western mori community, there's not as much focus on brands. I don't know if that's the same when Mori Kei was in its heyday in Japan. There are a lot of brands that people like recognize as like mori brands. But there is not heavily brand focused, and the community is very, very welcoming to anyone who wants to join. There's not a lot of gatekeeping. There's not a lot of, oh, that's not mori, you can't wear that or whatever. It's like, it definitely is like a feel, like as long as you like have that feel. And I always say that I don't know if that's like actually what Mori Kei originally was, but that's kind of what it has become in the Western community. I feel it's like, oh, as long as you have like this woodsy feel, then you're cool with us. You can come hang out with us.
Yeah, and since we are kind of shouting out panels, Madeline did do a panel during Sea of Serenity, I want to say, about about mori and how to get into it and different brands. And if you want to see that, you can go to the Area Kei YouTube channel. Wait, is it on the Area Kei one? It might be on J-Fashion On Demand.
It
Actually.
might. I'm not. I don't.
And it's
it
on.
might be.
I have a YouTube too.
Oh
I
yeah.
think-
Oh,
or-
it is
or
on your
there.
YouTube channel. Yes, it is on your YouTube channel. Go check it out and also follow her on YouTube.
I got a very comfy vest thing from Rag and Bones based on your recommendation from that panel, by the way.
Yay!
Yeah, and
I love that shop. Their stuff is always so cute. Anyway, sorry.
Here's a comment for the people who kind of started out doing Lolita, because it's saying you have to know what you're doing rather than just ordering something. Like a Lolita is a little bit more like you can just buy a set, or you can buy like the dress and you can say like, oh, I'm wearing Lolita. Are the fashions that where you have to like build your own wardrobe from like thrifted pieces? Do you think some people would consider that harder than like Lolita, which is a little bit like, oh, you got your petticoat, you got your JSK, you got your blouse, you got your headdress, you got like your over the knee socks. Lolitas, what do you think?
Do you mean like, I don't know, I feel like I get a lot of questions like, oh, I wish I could wear this fashion, but it's really hard because I don't know how to, like, where to buy it, or like, I don't know how to, like, build up my wardrobe or build up a coordinate. And it's hard to, like, just a beginner, like, to be like, oh, there's, like, Yahoo Japan or, like, Mbok or something, because, like, that's really hard to navigate as well.
That's true, yeah.
Even Closet Child, it's, like, you know, I can like direct them, and I did make like an article once, just like a big list of wear by Lolita. I think kind of like a mix adapted from Butt Cape's big Excel sheet, and yeah, and also Lolita has more of a rigid structure, like a rule, like as you said, whereas I'd say like other sub styles, there's no actual like you need XYZ to be in the fashion. It's kind of just like a loose aesthetic. So I think Lolita and maybe like OG is like the hardest, not the hardest, but the most like strict kind of.
Yeah, it's definitely strict.
And that's why people see it as a large hurdle. And like maybe there's like a little bit of a research component to like how to dress. And that's why I think people are scared of like elitists and things like that. I don't think no one cares anymore, probably.
Look, we're all sitting around. Well, I'm not wearing shoes. We're not wearing shoes. It's fine. We're fine.
On that strictness, though, I think especially if you're brand new to J fashion at all, it provides you a template. Like, for example, with menhera, when someone messes up on menhera, it's hard for me to sometimes explain to them why, and it's hard for them to see why. But with Lolita, you can very much say, here is your silhouette. Here is what you need to do. And so, yes, it can feel strict and confining, but it also makes it easier to know actually how to start that first.
There's a template, yeah.
Like,
there's literally a template. You can go and you can like find like the little like, you have to wear this, you have to wear this, you have to wear this, like this is what makes it Lolita. And you don't really get to like go outside of that box until like you know it a little bit and you're like, okay, I can break these rules now.
Yeah, I find that people who started out in Lolita like strictly find it really hard to go into like something like decora, where it's just like, oh, it's just chaos. It's just the feeling. You're just putting together all these patterns, and they're kind of like asking for rules, like, oh, like, do you need like a t-shirt, the shorts, the leggings, and
how many bows? Tell me a
how
number.
many bows, or how do you organize them on your head? And it's just like, oh, and I come to them like this, like J fashion hippie, like you just feel it out, man. Go with the spirit.
We just can't relate.
Exactly. So I think it can be hard for some and easier for others.
Depends on how your brain works. Yeah. So another kind of discussion point I wanted to talk about was involvement in the different J fashion communities. The only community I've ever been a part of is the Lolita community, and I'm really curious as to see like how the other J fashion comms kind of operate. Like, where does everyone meet? Like, where are the in-person meetups like? You know, like what are the online communities like?
Oh, the tear. I saw that.
What tier? Oh my god.
Oh.
Sorry, that was
tear.
also not just
Oh.
because of pandemic, but also because Mori Kei we don't really do like in-person meetups. So that's also it's
yeah.
sad. It's doubly sad.
There's like 2 of you per city. I'm sorry. Same here with Menhera.
Yeah, but like, does anyone else like do like these bigger in-person meetups besides Lolita?
Well, like, Lolita is the only like community that I'm like a part of, even though I'm in other like groups. And I think I'm like only in the community because like someone found me, and I never really actively like seeked it out. But I do know like because like in Sydney, Australia, where I like am living, like we're way less populated than like America. So there's like not much, like, even the Lolita community isn't like that big. I do know there's like an annual goth picnic every year, and I keep meaning to go. But I always wonder, like, is there an actual like proper community? Like, do they have events? I don't know, but I'd like to join, and I only wish that there's other like communities that I can be active in. Like, where are they?
I know in Australia you guys have one con and then you guys have Peppermint Fox's tea parties.
Right.
Yeah, we don't get much. We take what we can get. Yeah, like we don't have like brand tea parties like you guys do, and like like big names in conventions. We get like none of that. Like
Mr. Yan did visit Australia once.
Oh, of course he did.
Mr. Yan.
Oh,
yeah, I wasn't there for that. I was like in Queensland, but yeah, Ring Ring Doll came to Sydney. Yeah, that was fun. But like it was like really like kind of community organized rather than like through like organizations or like labels, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, it was kind of like grassroots. Please come. Yeah.
So,
I want to go to a large brand event one day, but yeah.
So Ray, you've mentioned being in the Lolita community, but not so much in the Gyado community. Is there any reason why? Are they also like not as active?
Well, there's not as many Gyado as there are Lolita. Obviously, it has kind of reached beyond its peak and has started dying down. They do have like Gyarusa or like gal circles, which is basically like a local community, but I feel like sometimes they tend to be more exclusive. Like you have to apply for them and like get accepted into them. I don't being in Colorado, like I know a few people that do gal, but there's not really like a Gyarusa as opposed to like on the West Coast, or there's like big ones in like the UK and stuff. And even then, like big ones are like 5 to 7 people, so they're still pretty small.
Yeah. Sometimes there's those international meets.
Yes, they do have those. They started doing them more recently, like once a year. They also have like the Gaijin Gyaru Awards, which is just like an award ceremony, and you can vote for like different categories on who your favorite gal is and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I think it's like I think an online community is pretty it's more active than like meeting in person, because then there's like there's gal valentines where like people leave little anonymous nice notes about someone that's in the in the community or something. Well, I'm in Chicago and I'm a part of Blackout Gaurusa, so
yeah, I was gonna say Blackout. There is that one in Chicago.
Yeah, and we have our own like Instagram page, and and then we would hang out like at least once a month and do kind of like we call it a photo project or something. There would be some sort of theme, and then we'd all be trying to take these photos, and then we would use those photos for the Instagram page. Yeah, so I definitely a lot of my like before the pandemic happened, a lot of my like meeting up with people to wear J fashion was like meeting up with the Gattersta. Um, and then I don't think, let me try to think, Decora doesn't really have like an organized thing. I think sometimes I have this theory that like kind of the less strict rules of fashion has, the less I guess organized the community is about like, oh, we're meeting at this time and we're doing these things, and sometimes the rules bring you together, whereas like the chaos
that
like
actually checks out so much. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like
Just
oh okay.
A lot of other J fashions besides Lolita also seem to be like smaller communities, so it's harder to find people in real life near you. So
So a lot of it's just going to be online.
Yeah, or at conventions, like if I go to a convention like sometimes like Techo, but then there was another one that I felt like I've met a lot of Katsucon. Yes, Katsucon, it's like, you know, Decora, Fairy Kei, like heaven. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, all the Decora people. Or Anime Expo. I'm just like, all the Decora people. Those are the two areas where I just feel like I get to meet more people who wear my home style, I suppose. So yeah.
Yeah.
To add on to that, there's DC Kawaii Style, which is a more general community in DC. Monique runs LA something.
Harajuku Day. Harajuku Day LA.
Yes, Harajuku Day LA, and they have a little bit of a community there. There's a lot of J fashion people in Houston and Texas, so I have to imagine they have a community. I hope they do. And then other than that, we tend to take over Lolita meets a lot. Like in Pittsburgh, any Lolita meet that is described as a casual meet, you are allowed to wear any type of J fashion. And so we typically will end up with people in other J fashions at our casual meets. And the only things that we really restrict to just Lolita are like tea parties. And even then, if you're wearing something more formal, people are fine with it. So we've kind of just taken over that, and we've had meets sometimes where they're a little more themed to something less Lolita. I think it's just like the Lolita communities, because Lolita communities have existed, it's easier to form a Lolita community, and so therefore it grows, and therefore more of them exist, and it's kind of like this perpetuating chain. Additionally, like with Mori, menhera, there are not a lot of people who are really into menhera, and again, it's a lot of chronic health, mental health issue people. So they can't necessarily travel. They don't necessarily want to go out, and they can't necessarily go out. So it can be hard to do meets, and we have online communities. And then again with menhera, it's there has been menhera meets in the UK, like a couple of small ones. But other than that, we're pretty spread out. I've only met a few other menhera in person, really. Though I have been occasionally converting people in the Lolita community.
I feel like you've converted a lot of people since you've been doing those panels.
I'm trying. I'm like, look, it's
menhera outreach.
Yeah, you're the menhera ambassador.
Somebody's got to do it, because apparently like 99% of people who decide they know about menhera and want to talk are just wrong. But that's another rant. But yeah, we have a pretty strong online community. I run one Facebook group, and there is a Discord that's run by one of the key figures in the menhera community, and we're all pretty active online.
I might join.
Yes, join us. Join us. Be comfy.
I'm good.
So kind of following this train of thought of like, there are a bunch of people who are already involved in Lolita, or there's not much kind of interaction between people who are not in Lolita in like real life. What do you think is like the disconnect between these different communities? Like, do you think it's more of like a Venn diagram, or do you think like these different substyles are like kind of, they don't like communicate with each other, or they're not like about, like, what do you think, like, you know, if I am a Lolita and I don't know anything about decora, like, is it common to be like, oh, that's like a weird style, or do you think it's like a little bit more friendly in your experience?
Well, like from a Lolita looking at my style, like saying it's weird. I haven't gotten anybody, you know, being like, "Oh, you're one of those."
Like, is there community infighting?
Oh, like maybe the Lolita community? Does that seem inviting? Or like the Koro community seems inviting?
Kind of like of each other, I guess.
I think there's like, you know, there's like Cybergirl who's really like, hey, like everybody, let's be decora and all this stuff. So I think there's people like, we're always really chill and happy when we get together and like, yeah, just do whatever you want, bro. Like someone will have an idea. Like, so what if I did like, I really love lemons and can I include, we're just like, yeah, do a whole lemon theme. That'd be awesome. So I think we're just like really chill. Meaning Monique, my best friend, looking at just a video of her talking. That was when I commented on it being like, I think we could be friends. And then that's how we became friends. Like, you know, I'm in Chicago, she's in LA, so yeah, it became kind of that thing. But yeah, I think we're pretty inviting. We just don't have like a lot of iconic figures and brands associated with us, besides like maybe like the 6% Doki Doki deal that's like kind of outreaching internationally, and I think people know about Haruka and different, like they see people who are kind of dressed like this, and they call them like rainbow core or
oh yeah something core
or something, but I don't think people connect it to like there is a way of life going to this. I think there's like with Lolita and Garu, there's a lifestyle that's inherent with it. That's just like, okay, if you're in Garu, you're like, maybe you're going to clubs, you're doing karaoke, you do it like there's like a kind of a lifestyle to it. Lolita is kind of like, oh, you do the tea party and you go to the brand meets that do this. And so there's like a culture to it. And I don't think decora has this like culture story or that makes it like, I don't know, a strong enough bond to make it like, I need the community. Like this is what it feels like to be a part of the style. Like it's not like necessary.
What are the core activities? Like what would that be if you could define it?
I went to a sleepover with a bunch of other decora people, and that's
so pure.
Yeah, and we were just like, you know, some people like brought accessories that we had made for each other. Like someone brought me, I'm not wearing it right now, but someone was just like, oh, I made like bracelets for everyone, and yours says like hard decora on it. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And and you know, just like watching cartoons and you know, maybe we take a really long time to get dressed up because of all this stuff going on. So we're all
getting
like,
ready together. That's it.
Getting ready together.
Which I feel like I remember watching like a YouTube video where it like follows like a girl in Japan getting ready to go out in decora, but she like goes to like a salon and they like she can pick out accessories from there and like wear them. So that's kind of just getting ready. That's it.
Yeah, like I can feel that like even when I'm doing the fashion shows for hard decora and like, you know, decora like-minded people are my models usually, and we have all this big pile of conjoined accessories and we're like sharing. We're like, I think that would go with your outfit. Like, oh, I have this that's going with your outfit. And like, yeah, that kind of feels like that could be the culture. Also, I think like eating a lot of candy would be really cool. Like making and fixing accessories together could be nice. Like there's a lot of like DIY sort of elements. Could be like decora culture. But yeah, we just like, I guess that was never really built into the origins of it, so we don't really do that often.
Yeah. So Madeline, I know you covered a little bit about like cottagecore in your panel. Do we want to talk about like cottagecore versus mori and like what the lifestyle aspect is?
Yeah, so cottagecore is really interesting because cottagecore has been around on Tumblr for a long time, and it just like blew up on TikTok, and now everyone talks about it. And I think a lot of people, they're finding mori because of cottagecore, because there is like some overlap where it's like we both like looking like grannies for some reason. Like that's the thing that we both like, and we both like the slow life. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the lifestyle thing, is just like living slow, like doing slow activities like baking bread or like cross stitch, stuff like that. So there is some overlap, but I think that the main difference like aesthetically is that I think that cottagecore kind of has more of a, I'm gonna say romantic, but in the ooh la la kind of way. Like, it's a little bit more like seductive, and like the dresses are a little bit more form fitting. Whereas Area Kei is like, I'm gonna layer all my clothes on my body.
Yeah, I think the way I heard it described was that cottagecore wants to live on the edge of the forest, like on a farm, where mori wants to be like the hag living in the forest.
Yeah.
I think it was the Stitches who.
I think it was.
And I like how she called mori. She said mori is a little bit more feral, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like we're feral. I like.
You're like drooling a little bit. You know, like
we got like twigs in our hair.
Like you are the deer when someone approaches you and you're like back off. Or this cottager is like, oh no, I'm a deer.
Yeah.
I also feel like Mori Kei and cottagecore is like Western goth is to Japanese goth.
Yeah.
Like same-ish, but not.
Yeah. Same but different.
Same but different. More
Same
westernized,
vibe, different application.
Yeah, I would think that wouldn't really appeal to a community, because both of those visions are kind of like, I want to live in a cabin in the woods, and then with the Mori Kei being like, I want to be the forest or witch or something like that. That's like very solitary.
The reason why there's not that much of a community is because you can't get good Wi-Fi in the forest.
Yeah, right.
I do feel like every Lolita community, though, has like the one token Mori person who's always there in Mori, and we're just like, oh hi, you're our token Mori.
I gotta start wearing more Mori to meet up.
We were gonna do like a Mori Bay Area thing, weren't we? For the SF prom? I thought so.
That'd be cool.
Let's do that.
I'd be down.
After your panel, I was like, wait, that sounds like a good idea. I think some other people were like, that would be dope. Let's see. So in terms of kind of switching topics completely, I kind of want to find out like what your experiences have all been in terms of public perception going out in your different J fashions. If you wear multiple J fashions, like do you have different experiences wearing one versus wearing another?
My bad. It's so dramatic.
Hi. Sorry.
No worries.
We got to have conflict.
Yeah.
Drama.
But yeah, obviously, when you go out in Lolita, even if it's just casual Lolita, oh my god, give her a break. She's upside down. Because you're in
Australia.
Oh my god.
The sticker is like, no.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It's fine. It's really hard to find gravity all the time. But yeah, it's like even if you go and just casual Lolita, it's kind of an annoyance to like be out on the street and have people like yelling at you and like telling you like, you know, are you in a play or like whatever. And some J fashions are more flashy than other J fashions. So what has your guys' experience been in terms of like public perception?
Well, because I do like hime gyaru, it's a lot more out there, but I've noticed that people, when I'm in hime gyaru, don't want to talk to me.
Good.
Like when I'm in Lolita, they're like,
Amazing.
what are you dressed up for? What's this for? And then I'll be out in gyaru and they like, you know, they're looking at you, but they don't really like they're intimidated or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I
and
did
the-
have one occurrence when I was in Gyaru. I was wearing pants and like a red polka dot shirt, and I was at the thrift store and some guy came up to me and called me Dorothy, and I was like, am I wearing Lolita? What's happening?
That's such an odd experience because you were both, and so that's not what you would.
Exactly. Like I was like, these are like normal clothes.
I'll say when I used to wear J fashion on campus forever because I was that kid, and I did go to the
Same.
nerd school, so a little bit of contingent little note there. So when I wore Lolita at the nerd school, nobody said anything because they were like, oh, it's the nerd school, of course somebody's going to be wearing this, right? But when I wore Visual Kei and punk, I got all sorts of stares. And I think it has a lot to do with like Lolita is weird, but it's still feminine and it ties into all those tropes. But all the other stuff doesn't. And so they were all like, oh, no, you're breaking gender norms over here. Outside of campus, though, it's a little more reverse. I do get more people trying to talk to us in Lolita. Not usually me, because I'm usually spooky, and they're like, oh, spooky. But I'll start harassing friends. And I've gotten people being annoying to my friends in decora. And I have to go over there and like yell at them. With menhera, we tend to not, unless you look at us real hard, you tend not to get much attention. However, that said, in other countries, in the UK and Finland, my friends have been like really harassed because not even because of menhera to start with, just because pastels are apparently so unusual there that they get so harassed. And it was shocking to me. It was absolutely shocking to me how awful, like, Americans have like this like people are like, oh, y'all are so rude, but meanwhile, like the stuff that has happened to my UK and Finnish friends. Sorry again. Gone again. Yeah, when they wear pastels, the things that they've had to encounter, I'm just like, they call us rude. Like nobody does that here. What are they like? Wild. Though once someone does look at the menhera outfit, they might be like, oh, weirding. No, aren't you like promoting self-harm? So like I'm wearing my anxiety angel shirt right now.
Yeah.
And so it says, I hate myself and I want to die. And I guess my camera also decided to die, but we'll fix that in a second. And I've had a lot of people be like, oh my God, you're promoting self-harm. You're promoting suicide ideation. And I'm like, no, it's actually about intrusive thoughts and like, this is the things that people have to live with. And so you'll get less attention with menhera, but then you have to you may or may not have to have that whole conversation. And I had to, even with my printer, who's my uncle, I had to have this long conversation like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. Here are some of the responses of people who've liked this series. So it less conversations, but the conversations you do have, people get really accusatory.
Right. Michael, you've mentioned kind of like growing up around J fashion and Japan and stuff. Would you say that the perception of that in public is different than what you experience in Australia?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like if I dress in any J fashion in Japan, no one says anything ever. They don't bat an eyelid at all. But then like in like Australia, it's either like old ladies saying how fantastic I look, or men PM asking me why I'm wearing a French maid outfit or something. So yeah, like maybe I don't know what, like if it's a culture difference, but yeah, in Japan, like they don't like they think they just keep to themselves or something, and they're wearing like way more out there stuff than me on the street. So I guess they're just like, oh, it's just another day. But I think that's maybe more in the capital cities.
Yeah.
Like I am from like a smaller town, and I don't actually just like wear like lolita there as much because I'm just like visiting family and stuff.
Right.
But I say like maybe they'll stare, but they won't say anything. Like
yeah, they're just thinking it.
I'm not doing that to say I'm trying to talk. I'm just clearing my throat.
Yeah. And Madeline, I assume that in terms of like going out in Mori is a little bit easier than going out in Lolita.
Definitely. So especially where I am, I'm in an area where there's a lot of ex-hippies. So they see my clothing and they think that I'm just like a weird hippie, even though it's definitely not the same. Like people who don't know about J-fashion, they're just like, oh, she's wearing a patchwork skirt with like this big lacy thing. Okay, that's normal. That's like normal, especially where I used to work. There's a lot of ex-hippies where I used to work. So when I wore that to work, they were just like, "Oh, you're cute. Look at you. You're so cute. Like you're just like us when I was young," or like whatever. And I have had people like ask me because maybe they pick up on the difference. They're like, "Oh, what is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a Japanese street fashion. It's called Mori Kei. It's about like being in like looking like you live in a forest." And they're just like, okay, and then they go on with their life. Like,
yeah, no one's asking. There's no one's like actively harassing you. I should hope. Yeah,
generally not. Yeah, because it's also a very modest fashion. Like, I'm not. There's nothing controversial about it, really. So I mean, yeah, I did have one person though. I was wearing Mori Kei, and they came up to me and they said, "You're a Lolita," and I was like, I am. How did you know that? So I don't know how that happened.
Did they know who you were?
No. I guess they just understood J-fashion, but they like got their wires a little bit crossed.
Yeah.
Reverse Uno card.
Yeah. And Kamila, what kind of comments do you get in terms of like being involved in more flashy J-fashion in public?
It's just like a mix bag of things. I think the running trend is that people feel like they can talk to me because I have colors. So whether it's like good or bad or just like anything, they'll just feel like, man, like when I used to take like public transportation a lot, I guess like when I had like the outside job or was going to school downtown and stuff like that, like there would just be people that would even say like, I just feel like I could like say like talk to you or something. You just seem like really cool. And I'm just like, huh? Like, I'm just like, so why do you feel that? I don't know. You just like put out this like vibe or like the colors or just people just feel like talking to me because I have colors. I don't see as intimidating or something like that. It's flashy and they feel like, yeah, she wants to be spoken to. She's like a rainbow, you know?
Yeah.
So people have that sort of reaction. There's been people who like really don't get and understand like the Band-Aid when I wear the Band-Aid on my nose.
Right.
They either think like something is wrong or there's like a longer explanation. I had someone like stop me at one of those like I guess those selfie museum things or exhibition things where they put all those decorations up for people to just take selfies in different rooms. And someone stopped me being like, yeah, I know what this is about. Like, I saw a video on this. I'm just like, okay.
Oh, no.
And they're just like, so like, what's like the Band-Aid? And I'm just like, oh, that's like, decor is just all about, childlike curiosity, optimism, different notes like that. And, using the Band-Aid as a decoration is just like a part of that. And they're just like, oh, okay. But what does it like really mean? And it's like, I just told you. Like, there's nothing else.
Sir, this is a Wendy's drive-thru.
Right.
Oh, you should come up with a story about how you were in a attack with a bear and a shark, and you ended up with a scar on your nose. And you're really, really uncomfortable talking about it, and how dare they bring it up?
Oh man, I feel like they would accept that answer more than just like, yeah, I'm just putting it on. I've had at some sort of like kind of joint cookout or something event. It was like a music event, but everybody could have their own squares where they were doing barbecuing and stuff like that. And I went with my dad, and there were some like just like extended family friends-ish. I didn't really know them, but they were related to some people that my dad knew. And the older lady, she seemed like really spiteful about it. She was like, when are you going up? Like, really just like,
man, we're not that related.
Like, we're not related at all. You just met me, and you're really upset about, because it would start with just questions about, so what do you do, or this thing, and then like it just went down a rabbit hole of like, oh, so you're like, well, you need to grow up and stuff. And I'm just like, excuse me, I'm married.
Yeah, you own a business.
Yeah,
like you are a businesswoman.
What do you want me to do? So, what is your work? I'm an accountant. So stuff like that happens, just like the decora vibe kind of just, and also it makes me look younger. Mm-hmm. So then people will assume that I am like a teenager, which I'm just like, I wish I dressed like this as a teenager. Like, you wouldn't.
What if I had money when I was a teenager?
Yeah, what if I had money when I was a teenager? This would be me, and you wouldn't be able to tell me anything. But yeah, they'll like figure it out, and I'll say like, oh yeah, I'm I'm 29, and then they're like, oh my god, and then they got to get everybody over. They got to, oh, you come over here, this girl, she's saying that she's 29, and like, I'm just like, okay, the whole building
very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it kind of just like becomes like a big thing anniversary wise. And I was even like kind of dressed down. I was wearing an Akira dress, but I had some white steampunk goggles on, and I had like colorful braids. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything. Your anniversary dinner, right? Where everybody harassed you when you were trying to have a nice private dinner at like a fancy swancy place. I'm still mad about that.
Yes, people literally wanting to like sit with us and like talk to us about, so where did you get this thing? So what is all this about? When I go to the swanky places, it's always so what is all this about? And I'm like, ew, like this is like the worst. So
that restaurant should have stepped in for y'all. Like,
yeah. But instead the restaurant started becoming like the waiters coming over and be like, someone told me that you were dressed all nice and stuff. Wow,
yeah.
I'm just like it started becoming a spectacle.
Are you gonna pay me with a free dinner for all of the acting you're making me do?
Right, you're working.
Right, exactly. I felt like I was at the convention at that point. So sometimes stuff like that happens, but usually it's people being like, oh, cute, or a little, child being like, wow, I like your hair, or something.
Well, that's cute. That's adorable.
Great. none of the interactions, I guess, made me want to like, oh, I need to stop wearing this. But yeah, it's a mixed bag when it comes to the decora colorful styles.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we were talking about like family before, does anyone have like any does anyone want to chime in about how they were perceived by their family when they started wearing J fashion? Like, what did y'all's parents think? Was it weird for them?
I was always a weird kid, so my parents didn't care. My dad is an actual hippie, still, and so like it didn't really surprise them.
Mhm. Yeah.
My mom was really, really negative about it, and she's only like kind of recently quieted down. My dad, I started the business fairly early, I guess, into, well, not really, like by the time my parents knew I was like still dressing up, my business had kind of started, and my dad had also started his own business. He's like, "Oh, you're doing a business thing. All right, whatever. You do that."
Oh, like this, it's all a business.
Yeah, so basically.
This is marketing.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, well, this is tied to your business, so whatever." No, I mean, I guess it's like the number of things I've had to fight with my parents about is like a lot. So yeah, they didn't really approve, but also it wasn't very high on the like giant list of things that I didn't get along about.
Yeah. In terms of like the different J fashions, do you think there's anything that's like a little bit more acceptable to parents?
I don't know. I think maybe it's just my case, but my mom like encourages like more feminine, like because she really likes like pink and really stuff. So she was like really perceptive to like sweet Lolita, but like if I wear like goths, which I like a little bit more, she's like, "Oh, you got a lot of black around your eyes.
Why don't you wear some angelic pretty?"
She basically says that, and yeah, I mean, I guess it's like more acceptable if you're like more feminine. I don't know.
And which could be like a cultural thing as well.
Yeah. But she wants to wear it too. She says she wants to try. And we've got some pictures together with her borrowing some of my clothes. So yeah.
That's super cute.
I think that my parents don't even fully understand that I wear mori Kei. like I said, it's so normal like here that they're just like, "Oh, you're wearing clothes." But when I did start wearing Lolita, my mom didn't really say anything about it. She wasn't like excited, but she also wasn't like against it. But my dad, he is so about like high quality clothes and like looking your best. And so when he found out that I was like spending all this money on like these expensive clothes, he was like, "Yes, do it. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to buy you accessories." And I like for Christmas, he like gives me like nice classic Lolita, like antique stuff that could work with classic Lolita. So yeah.
I guess like my mom was always more supportive of like she thought those things were like cute teenager stuff. Like when there was like the emo thing going on, she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like the cool teenager part where you get to be into this weird style." So she was into buying me stuff from like there was that Avril Lavigne line.
I would say something, but I have no room to talk. So.
Yeah, so it was just like she was really into that. She just felt like it was a fun thing to see from like a teenagehood perspective. And then my dad was like really concerned about like, so I see you wearing black glittery nail polish. Are you a Satanist? Is something going on with you spiritually? Or if not, people are going to think that, and I don't want people to think that. So it would be like small things that I'm just like, wow, you're like really reading a lot into this. And then as I began getting into more colorful styles, the worry from my father was more about like, so shouldn't she be getting less into wearing stuff like this? Or like, isn't she getting older? And she's
You're
like,
aging shouldn't you like stuff less?
Yeah.
Wait, Adrian, do you mean more money to spend on stuff I like?
Right, exactly.
Yes,
So,
yes, Father, I am Satan.
yes, now, yeah, Satan gave me the black nail polish. That's how you know. That's the deal we made.
I sold my soul for some nail polish.
Right. So it definitely was like, okay, something weird. And then I think my dad had like a turn similar to like Pufatel's dad, where it's just like, oh, business thing. Okay, I see.
So, pro tip: if you want your parents to accept it, start a brand and make some money.
Right, exactly. Then they're just like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. You're kind of doing it for that. That's why you're going so hard. And I'm just like, oh,
That's why they call it hard decora.
right. So yeah, so then it started becoming a little bit less like, oh, this is weird. And then just seeing that like, oh, look, there's other people that like this. There's other people that dress like this. It's not just me being like regressive or something.
Right.
So yeah, so I think that kind of took off there pretty okay. And then my little sisters, I think I have succeeded in getting one of my little sisters to be really interested in the way that I dress. So I'm just like, yes, she wants to take like all of my clothes. I definitely gave her a few things when she came to visit last time. But yeah, she's just like, oh, I want this and that, and I can fit your shoes. Like, can I have these shoes? And she wants to, even if I'm like literally wearing it, she's like, oh, can I have it? Like,
those are some nice shoes you have. It'd be a shame if they stole them off your feet.
Right. She just wants like everything, despite me being like, but I wear them. That's why I have to have them. But yeah, she's actually into it. My other two sisters are more normal people. And that's perfectly fine. They're into their own little
That's their own choice, and we accept that.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably not going to be into J-fashion.
Nothing to be ashamed about.
Right, their fault. They're boring.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, one of them is more like into gaming, and I think is a burgeoning furry. I don't know yet, but like definitely into like only animals, all cats. I want cat ears, that sort of stuff. So I'm just like, okay, cool. And then the other sister is really into doing nails. So just like, oh, okay, like cosmetic, like, so there's like some places where, you know, we can connect stylistically. Right. I definitely had a cat ear phase too, so maybe it'll just be a slow turnaround. But yep, so that's my family.
Oh, yeah. By the way, my name's pronounced Puvi Thel. I know like a few prominent people mispronounce it, and now everybody keeps doing it, but
so.
So kind of along the same lines of like talking about family and kind of going along the same lines of like this comment over here being African and goth was self-crucifixion. Does anyone feel as if like their culture, like their experiences in their culture like negatively impacted or positively impacted wearing J-fashion? And I know we also wanted to talk a little bit about culture incorporated into J-fashion.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess I'll start. So I think a lot of people don't expect a South Asian to be into something alternative, so they're not necessarily like, there's like a lot of people who base their identity around like, oh, Black people aren't allowed to do XYZ, and you're like, what? But nobody, the thought has never even crossed their mind that an Indian would do it, so I don't get as much of that. But as like a first generation where you're trying to figure out how you're balancing all your cultural influences, it can be something that can like play into like, oh, well, now am I being too American? Do people think I'm too American because I'm doing this? Da, 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 da. And I would say actually J-fashion has kind of helped me in that sense, because like there are other dark-skinned members of the community who have some of these same struggles, and they've been like very welcoming of me, and it's nice to have that connection. And then also, like, when you do see another brown person, they're like, oh, we're friends now and forever. And I'll say, like, getting to incorporate my culture into things in a little bit is kind of nice. I mostly use Tamil in like my designs, but I don't incorporate too much more Indian into things. I will say Area Kei is a great person to follow, and Jonah. Both of them incorporate their cultures into their fashion really well and in really interesting ways. So highly recommend checking those out. I just use it as an excuse to wear more bindis all the time.
Yeah, and I know Camille from Empire Noir has done like African prints in dresses, right? As well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Maiko, kind of along your experiences of like culture, like growing up doing kind of like being integrated in J fashion, there's less of a barrier of like understanding, but do people expect you to do J fashion because you're Japanese?
Honestly, I feel like in Japan, like it was maybe more just like my mom and also like mainstream media growing up, but like I guess it's not the norm. But when I am in Australia, I'm actually like the only Japanese person I know who's kind of in like the lolita circles or J fashion circles. So I don't know. I can't really speak for like other Japanese people in like J fashion because I just don't know them.
Yeah.
But for me, like maybe because like even though I grew up in Japan at a young age, I mostly grew up in Australia. So I feel like maybe J fashion is like a way for me to reconnect or to identify with like my culture. And I think maybe alternative styles is what I connected most with. And honestly, like it made me feel more like at home, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't really speak for other Japanese people who are in like who do dress in J fashion as much. Like I do have some like people that they're in Japan and they just dress that way, and I can't like they won't relate in the same way that I do. So yeah.
Anyone else want to talk about like culture and JFash?
I would say like, let me see, culture in J fashion or feeling like it contributed to it. I guess it kind of like contributed to the way that I approached, I guess my J fashion, eventually like my style and everything. Again, like taking in inspiration from pop stars like TLC too. I always loved Left Eye, and how she dressed and like just like the little line under the left eye. I was just like, that's so cool. And yeah, I just really enjoyed like just all the colorful um I don't know, attributes to like 90s pop stars and stuff. So I took that into account when looking at decora and being like, oh, okay, like it's just wearing a bunch of accessories, right? So I can do any sort of like silhouette that I want. So I can take like, I just really fell in love with the whole like, all right, I'm going to have a tank crop top and I'm going to have like the harem pants, but it's going to have like bright pink and stars. And then I'm going to wear some pastel shoes that look like Air Force Ones. And yeah, kind of like putting that all together into my decora looks as well. And I feel like that's kind of like connecting with some icons from Black culture to create styles. I'm also a huge fan of using traditionally like Black hairstyles with J fashion as well. So I do a lot of like braids, or right now I'm like exploring more of just using my natural hair. I did do a lot of like I would dye my hair too, but now I'm like, okay, so what is it gonna be like if I don't dye my hair and it's just black, even though I'm doing like colorful styles? Like how would that work for me? And you know, I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving all the selfies that I'm taking. Um, so yeah, so I or even like my next thing is like I really want to do like faux locks again, and maybe do like some blonde ones, and I think that would really work with Garu. And I'm just like, oh man, that'd be really fun. So yeah, so I think that's like a really fun like way to level 4 hair is optimal for maximum decora coverage. Yes.
More space for accessories.
Yeah, but I also don't want to cover all of my hair too, because I'm just like, oh, I could literally stack this and stay like that shape. But I'm like, oh, but I want people to see the hair that's under it, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it's definitely really easy to stack the accessories on. So yeah, the curls are a great structure. I think I was saying something about, yeah, just I really enjoy doing that. And I would encourage anybody else who has curly hair to like experiment with using your natural hair for traditional styles like more often, because that's going to make your look really unique and pop.
It works for any J fashion.
Yeah, it does.
So it looks like we only have like a couple minutes left. We fill up our entire time. So if anyone in the comments has any questions that you want to run by us, otherwise it's pretty much the panel. We had some more prompts that we were going to talk about, but we filled up the space. Good job, guys.
Well, that's why we got to do another one.
Yeah, we'll do another one.
It'll take them a few seconds to see.
Yeah, there's a bit of a...
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's important to like have a lot of communication between, like, you know, like in terms of like between different J fashion communities. What's the best and worst thing a kid has said to you in fashion?
Like
one time when I was wearing Lolita while I was working at the library, and I heard a little kid like 2 feet away from me whisper to her mom, "Look, it's a princess."
The princess comments are fun.
I know, but it's just like, usually kids come up to you and they're just like, "Hey, I like this," but the fact that they're like so shy about it. Or when I was wearing Mori Kei, I was called a shelf elf. Because I was called the books, so they called me the shelf elf.
That's so great! Oh my god,
you are the elf on the shelf. That you're the one that everyone's heard of, right? The elf on the shelf.
Less creepy though, hopefully.
I think I had well, it wasn't in J fashion, but my little sister saw a picture of me when I was younger in a Sleeping Beauty dress. And they literally thought that I was a princess. They're like, Kamila was a princess. She was a princess. And I was just like, no, that was just a costume. But yeah, that was a really cute moment.
Yeah. Did it have any like bad kid experiences where you're like, oh, you're a rude little object? I feel like normally kids are pretty cool. But...
Yeah.
I was once wearing a mori cord that had pants, which isn't super common, but I was doing it. And I literally had a kid look at me and say, "What are you wearing?" Am I being called out by a 4-year-old right now?
Oh my god.
I eat little kids too.
I've never really had kids comment on me, but I have had old people they'll see my platforms and be like, ah, yes, reminds me of my best days.
When I used to be tall.
And they look like just like your average grandmother. And they'll be like, ah, yes, reminds me of my youth. Carry on.
Yeah, like I get older people being like, yeah, back in the 70s, we used to wear platforms like that.
Oh yeah, and also like old people love petticoats, so
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I love it.
But
do we have any other questions? Because otherwise we're pretty much over time. So I think they're talking about their it's okay. Don't be scared. It's just a witch family getting sushi.
Oh my
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. We're out of time. Let's see, I'm going to check on what the next panel is. Tune in for the next panel is going to be Emma and Lacey Crown, or Emily. They're going to be doing a makeup get ready with us, kind of Valentine's Day EGL themed makeup panel. So tune in for that. Other than that, remember to if you haven't already, maybe sign up for the charity. It's going to, supporting the Transgender Law Center. And we really want to, in this time, spread love. So that, register for that. Other than that, thank you guys all so much for joining me for this panel. Hopefully, I had a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank
you.
It was lovely.
Okay. And we'll see y'all, next time. Bye.
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 Bye.